And welcome back to Picks on Politics. Joining me now, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. So, Mr. Bragg, good to see you. Your tie looks great. Don't worry about it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for the fashion advice. I appreciate it.
You got it. So I want to begin with your thoughts on the election. Your name mentioned a whole lot during the campaign by specifically Lee Zeldin, who said he would fire you on day one had he been elected. Obviously, he didn't win the race. It was closer than anyone thought, though. So what did you make of those threats? Did you ever feel your job was truly in jeopardy?
Yeah, I was disappointed at the public discourse, the focus on, kind of a throwback to a Willie Horton era, and really not a focus on solutions. We're doing the work every day in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office: gun violence, sexual assaults, human trafficking. So that's where my focus has been. But look, Manhattan voters in particular are astute and smart. They voted 80+% for me last year, and at just about the exact same clip this year in this race. And so they know we're doing the work. Yeah. They know I get it. We have real issues to work on.
So, you're mentioning some of the things you're working on. Crime, certainly a hot button issue. Again, a lot of mentions about bail reform being a contributing factor. Republicans running on that very issue. But even some Democrats calling for change. The mayor himself, the governor telling Pix 11 during a forum, all options are on the table to figure out crime. As the DA, do you believe that bail reform needs to be looked at in the upcoming January session?
Well, look, our folks are in court every single day. So on the violence cases, the kind of cases that my neighbors, my church mates are focused on, we're able to argue for bail and get it. The kind of cases I just mentioned with the violence, focusing really on the drivers of violence. I've always said on bail that we'll follow the data, looking at the data on rearrests and return to court. And the data, shows to me that we're able to do what we need to do in our violence cases. And I think we need to really be focusing on our mental health infrastructure and preventing these things before they occur in the first place. So,
Zeldin's campaign repeatedly went after you for downgrading charges of certain individuals. Is that something you do? And if so, why?
We look at the facts in every single case, right? So we are looking at the facts and making fact-based and people-based decisions. And I think, look, you look at what Manhattan voters said, again, over 80%. We have real issues to focus on. We're focusing on them. But in particular, we're focusing on those who are driving the violence, shootings and homicides down in Manhattan. Very, very important. But we know we have more work to do, and we're doing it every single day.
So let me talk about those numbers, because you just mentioned them. So let's go there. You're coming to the end of your first year in office, right? And according to the New York Post analysis of some NYPD numbers, major crime in Manhattan is up 30%. So let's take a look at some of the numbers, right? Burglaries jumping 45%, grand larceny up 53%. Here are some of the other numbers, right? What do you see then as the driving force behind these numbers going in the wrong direction?
Right. So first of all, we have to contextualize those numbers, right? Those numbers are generally, as the New York Times reported, the same citywide, and if you expand the focus even more nationally. So, of course, I care about that. I live here. I'm raising my family here. Those numbers are very, very important. And so what we're doing is working, hand in hand with the NYPD and the drivers of violence, focusing on that, and focus in the first instance, I think, where it makes sense on shootings and homicides, and have seen those numbers go down. And we're also focusing as well on those statistics you said. It's a citywide and a nationwide problem. I get it. I live here. We're working every day on it.
So just to button it up and make sure I'm very clear on this issue, you don't think there needs to be any change to bail reform?
Well, I have not seen the data that suggests, and again, we're in court every single day. As you know, there was a change earlier this year to the law, which we're using in court, allowing us to seek bail in a broader scope of cases than prior to that change. So I'm looking at the data. We'll look at the data presented to me, but I do have a lot of data points because we're in court every single day. And on the drivers of violence, where Manhattanites are focused, we're able to, we have the tools that we need.
And you feel okay with the judge's discretion and that part of it?
Well, look, obviously we make our requests and we kind of can do our role. There are times when we make a bail application and the judge, declines that, and that's the judge's role and right. We make our arguments to the court. More often than not, judges agree with us, and sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm. I do want to pivot right now to the investigation into the Trump Organization. I know it's an ongoing investigation, right? There's not a lot you can say, but what is the latest, and is it moving forward?
Right. Well, I can talk first and say the Trump Organization trial, which we have going on right now, is active and before court, and we have had testimony. I know there's been reporting on that. So that is the chapter that we're in Right now, we're working. That's where our immediate day-to-day trial team is focused on. As you also know, we indicted also in the Trump orbit Steve Bannon earlier this fall. And our investigation, our broader investigation into the former president and the organization and others is active and ongoing. And we will. I view this as in chapters. So the chapter right now is the Trump Organization trial.
Yeah.
It's active before a jury, and then there are additional chapters yet to come that we're working on actively every single day.
So are one of those chapters any potential charges for the former president himself, and has your office actually spoken to him?
Well, I'm not going to go beyond our statement, which we issued this earlier this year, and get into the nuts and bolts of what we're doing every day. That wouldn't be appropriate. And really importantly, what I'd like to know is that could prejudice anything we do. What I can say is we're actively looking at it. And I said there's sort of distinct issues and phases. So we have the Trump Organization trial now. We have other things that we're looking at, but I can't go beyond that. I could prejudice any charges we might bring if I go beyond that, so I won't do that.
Understood. Well, hey, I respect your time. I know you're very busy. I appreciate you being here on an important week to talk about some of these issues, and you're welcome back anytime, okay?
Thanks so much.
All right, DA Alvin Bragg, thanks for being here.